Good morning. It is January 14th, and I will be reading again our scripture because my computer didn't save it. It is 25 degrees outside. I just got into the office. I'll be reading Monday today as well because I don't think I'm going to make it in to the office on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. So, here we go. Today is Genesis 37 through 39. Now Jacob dwelt in the land where his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan, and this is the history of Jacob. Joseph, being 70 years old, was feeding the flock of his brothers, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Ziphiah and his father's wives. And Joseph brought a bad report of them to his father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son of his old age. And he made him a tunic of many colors, but his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, and they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. Now Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. So he said to them, "Please hear the dream which I have dreamed. There we were binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheep arose and stood upright, and indeed your sheaves stood all around and bowed to my sheaf." And his brothers said to him, "Shall you indeed reign over us, or shall you indeed have dominion over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and his words. Then he dreamed still another dream and told it to his brothers and said, "Look, I have dreamed another dream, and this time the sun and the moon and the 11 stars have bowed down to me." So he told it to his father and his brothers, and his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream you have dreamed? Shall your mother and I and your brothers indeed come and bow down to the earth before you?" And his brothers envied him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Then his brothers went and fed their father's flock by Shechem, and Israel said to Joseph, Are not your brothers feeding the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send you to them. So he said to them, Here I am. And he said to them, Please go and see if it is well with your brothers and well with the flocks, and bring back word to me. So they sent him out of the valley of Hebron, and he went to Shechem. And now a certain and they found a certain man there that was wandering in a field. And the man asked him, What are you seeking? So he said, I am seeking my brothers. Please tell me where they are feeding the flocks. And the man said, and he departed from there. For I heard them say, Let us go to Dothan. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dothan. Now, when they saw him afar off, before he came near, they conspired against him to kill him and said to one another, Look, the dreamer is coming. Come therefore and let us kill him and cast him into the pit, and we shall say, Some wild beast has devoured him, and we shall see what becomes of his dreams. But Reuben heard of it, and delivered him. I'm sorry. But Reuben heard of it and delivered him out of their hands and said, Let us not kill him. And Reuben said, shed no blood, but cast him into the pit which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him, that he might deliver him out of their hands and bring him to his fathers. So it came to pass, when Joseph had come to his brothers, they stripped him of Joseph's tunic, the tunic made of many colors that was on him, and they took him and cast him into a pit where there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat a meal, and they lifted up their eyes, and looked, there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead, and their camels bringing spices and balm and myrrh on their way to carry him down to Egypt. So Judah said to his brothers, What what profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and lay not your hand upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brothers listened to the Midianite traders and passed by. So the brothers pulled up Joseph and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And they took Joseph to Egypt. And Reuben returned to the pit, and indeed Joseph was not in the pit. And he tore his clothes and returned to his brothers and said, The lad is no more, and I, where shall I go? So they took Joseph's tunic and killed a goat and dipped his tunic in the blood, and they sent the tunic of many colors and brought it to their father and said, We have found this. Do you know whether this is your son's tunic or not? And he recognized it and said, This is my son's tunic. A wild beast has devoured him. Without a doubt, Joseph is torn to pieces. And Jacob tore his clothes and put sackcloth on his waist and mourned for many days. And all his sons and his daughters arose to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted and said, For I shall go down into my grave to mourn to my son mourning. Thus his father wept for him. And now the Midianites had sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's captain of the guards. Chapter 38. And it came to pass that and it, and it came to pass at that time that Judah departed from his brothers and visited a certain Odulamite whose name was Hira. And Judah saw there was a daughter, a certain Canaanite whose name was Shua, and she married and went in, and he married and went into her. So she conceived and bore a son and called his name And she conceived again and bore a son and called his name Onan. And she conceived yet again and bore a son and called his name Shelah. And he was at Chezib when she bore him. Then Judah took a wife for his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord killed him. And Judah said to Onan, Go into your brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up an heir to your brother. But Onan knew that the heir would not be his. And it came to pass then, when he went into his brother's wife, he admitted on the ground, lest he should give an heir to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased the Lord, therefore he killed him also. Then Judah said to Tamar, his daughter in law, Remain a widow in your father's house till my son Shelah is grown. For he said, Lest he also die like his brothers. And Tamar went and dwelt in his father's house. And now it was in the process of time that Shua, Judah's wife, died, and Judah was comforted and went to the sheep shears at Timnah, and his friend Hira, the Adulamite, and it was told to him, saying, Look, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear sheep. So she took off her widow's garment and covered herself with a veil, and wrapped herself and sat in an open place which was on the way to Timnah. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and he had not given him as a wife. So Judah saw her and thought she was a harlot because she had covered her face, then turned to her by the way and said, Please let me come in to you. For he did not know that she was his daughter in law. And he said, What shall you give me if you come in to me? And he said, I will give you a young goat from the flock. And she said, Will you give me a pledge until you send it? Then he said, What shall I pledge you? So she said, Your signet cord and your staff which is in your hand. And he gave them to her, and he went to her and conceived, and she conceived by him and arose and went away. and laid her veil and put it on the garment of her widowhood. And Judah sent a young goat by the hand of his friend the Adulamite to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but she did not find her. Then she asked the men to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but did not find her. And then she asked the men of the place, saying, "Where is the harlot who sat openly on the roadside?" And they said, "There is no harlot in this place." So he returned to Judah and said, "I cannot find her." Also the men of that place said, "There was no harlot in this place." Then Judah said, let her take them for herself, lest we be ashamed, for I sent this young goat, and you have not found her. And it came to pass about 3 months after that Judah was told, saying, Tamar, your daughter in law, played the harlot, and furthermore, she is with child by this harlotry. So Judah said, Bring her out and let her be burned. And when she was brought out, she said to her father in law, saying, By the man to whom these belong, I am with child. And he said, Please determine who these are, the signet cord and the staff. And Judah acknowledged them and said, She has been more righteous than I, because I did not give her Shelah, my son, and he never knew her again. And now it came to pass at the time for giving birth, that behold, twins were born to her. Twins were in her womb, and it was that when she was giving birth, that one put out his hand, and the midwife took a scarlet thread and bound it on his hand, saying, This one came out first. And so it happened that he drew back his hand, and his brother came out unexpectedly. And she said, How did you break through? This breach be upon you. Therefore his name was called Perez. And afterwards his brother came out, who had the scarlet thread on his hand, and his name was called Zerah. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, a captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him from the Ishmaelite who had taken him there. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a successful man, and he was in the house of his master the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and the Lord made all he did prosper in his hand. So Joseph found favor in his sight, and he served him. Then he made him overseer of all of his house, and all that he had he put under his authority. So it was from time to time that he had made him overseer of the house, and had blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was on all that he had, and in the house and in the field. Thus he left that in the hand of Joseph, and he did not know what he had except for the bread which he ate. Now Joseph was handsome in form and appearance. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast longing eyes on Joseph and said, Lie with me. But he refused and said to his master's wife, Look, my master does not know what is with me in the house, and he has committed all that he has to my hand. There is no one greater than I in the house, nor has he kept anything from me but you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? So it was that she spoke with Joseph day by day, that he did not heed her to lie with her or to be with her. But it happened, but it happened about this time, when Joseph went into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the house were inside, that she caught him by his garment, saying, "Lie with me." But he left his garment in her hand, and fled and ran outside. And so it was that when she saw that he left his garment in the hand and fled and ran outside, that she called to the men of the house and spoke to him, saying, "See, he has brought to us this Hebrew to mock us." And he came into me and lied to me, and I cried out with a loud voice. And it happened when he heard that I lifted my voice and cried out, he left his garment with me and fled and went outside. So she kept his garment with her until the master came home, and then she spoke to him with words like these, saying, "The Hebrew servant who you brought into us came into me to mock me." And so it happened, as I lifted up my voice and cried out, that he left his garment and fled outside. So it was that when the master heard these words which his wife spoke to him, saying, "Joseph's master took him into the prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined, and there he was in the prison. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed mercy, and he gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison, who were in the prison. Whatever they did, it was by his doing. The keeper of the prison did not look into anything that was under Joseph's authority, because the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made it prosper." Have a great day. Stay warm.